You're welcome again, Pt2 here. So in this tutorial I'm gonna be showing you how I did this. This is just a jotter, and I think I did, let me say, the part 1 of it, and this should be the part 2. That's just the back cover. Now the other side of the jotter. So it's a simple design, and I'm gonna show you step by step how I did this. Of course, you know my tutorials are always beginner friendly. Alright, so let's dive into the tutorial now. So I have my workspace here, which is obviously just an A4 size, or sorry, A5 size. So I already have the necessary things I need here, which I'm just going to turn them on, and any little adjustment I just made, I'll just show how I did it. Okay, this is one of it, which is this. Then I have the background here. I turned it off. So I already just imported the stuff, that's the resources I'm gonna need for the tutorial on the workspace already. So don't be surprised on how I got them. You can always download them, like I said. So this is just a background I downloaded, and I just fit it into the, maybe I should just reduce it a bit, or maybe the previous one. Okay, let's just say this is fine. So what I did here was to click mask, layer mask rather. This is it. I'm gonna delete the layer mask. You see now it shows this here. Then I'll just come right here and click. Then what I just did was to just use the brush, which is the B, to just erase this part. That was what I did. Just to, you can always reduce the opacity, and okay, for this I'm now going to reduce the opacity so that everything can just wipe off. Then at this point I can reduce the opacity so that it just blends into the, I can reduce the flow as well, so that it just blends into the background. So that's how this came about. I'm going to undo it and use the previous one. So okay, yeah, so this is the previous one, which is fine like this. Okay, so let's say this is fine. Then yeah, the next thing is to bring up the images and fix them into the necessary shapes. So I'm gonna come right here to this ellipse, rectangular 2. Then I'm gonna click and drag like this. Obviously the color of the shape does not really matter, so I'm gonna move it right here. Let's see this. And one thing you need to understand is, whenever you're working on stuff like this, you need to always work with proportions, that's alignment. So I'm gonna use my my ruler, and I think this is fine. So in order to get the approximate or the appropriate size for the other side, what I'm gonna do is just to use another ellipse. Then I'm gonna increase this, so I'll just come right here. Then I'm gonna change this to 0. In some cases you might not really need to change this to 0. The reason I'm changing it to 0 is because I don't want a curve around the edges. So I'm gonna select like this, then I'm gonna move this. Good. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just to make sure that this very shape is selected. Then I'll click here so that it goes to the other side. Then I can then drag, and so I have the same size here right now. then I can delete this because it's no more useful for me at this moment, and I deselect with Ctrl D. So I have this. So the next thing now is for me to make sure that the image comes into here, and I turn this on. Okay, so this background now has to come right below the images. Good. So that all the images can be above it. So for this image right here, so I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate this. Then once I do that, so for this, I will make sure that this comes down right here. Then I'll turn it on. So once I turn it on, I'll clip mask it into the, that's Ctrl Alt G, Ctrl Alt G, Ctrl Alternate G, then it clip mask into the image, into the shape rather. Okay, so now one of the things I'm gonna do is to reduce the, oh no, so I'm gonna reduce the shape like this. Now, so what I want is, I want the other side to be a little bit curved, so I'm gonna turn everything to 0, right? So I'm gonna click this to unchain it or to unlink the whole thing together. So now I can play around with this, maybe like, let's just say 25. Let's see how 25 looks on it. Okay, let's see, maybe 50. Okay, let's say maybe 75. I think around 120 will go well. Yeah, I think that's fine. So after that, the next thing to do is just to now I'm not gonna need this again. I'm gonna delete it. At this point, I'm gonna duplicate this. Yeah, so now what I just did was to duplicate this, then so to ensure that there's enough space in between like this, so what I did was to make sure that this was a little bit smaller, like so. I think this is fine, or something like this is fine. So a little bit smaller. Then I decided to, give it also alignment, so that everything will be aligned. I use the ruler. Then what I'll do is I'm gonna flip the angle. So I'm gonna turn this to 0. Then I'll make sure that this other side, yeah, so I have it something like this. So this image turns on. Now one of the things you need to understand is that the image must always be above the shape before it can clip mask into the shape. So I have the image above the shape, then I clip mask. So I can then adjust to my own taste, the way I prefer it. I can adjust it the way I prefer it. Okay, so another thing I did was that, okay, I duplicated this because I wanted it to be kind of symmetric, right? So so that they can complement each other. So what I did was that, so I made sure that this particular shape here matches up with the one here, then this also matches up with the one here. So what I'm gonna do now is I'll go back to this shape. I'm gonna duplicate it again, Ctrl J. Now one of the mistakes you would want to do is that don't shift this. If you shift this, you discover that you will mess up with your clip mask, because you've the image here is what you clip masked directly into the shape. So the shape you want to move is the one below, so don't make a mistake of moving the shape that is directly below the image. So I move this right here. So once I move this right here, then I will turn this to 0, then I'll make this 120 as well. So now this would be somewhere around here because of the size, right? Yes, because of the size. Then I'm gonna clip mask the image that ought to be there too. So I'm gonna take this directly and place it below here, because this is the image I want it to be inside of. So I clip mask it already like this. I clip mask it like this. Then I'll come right here. I'll duplicate this also. Don't forget the second image, the second shape is what you need. So I'm gonna drag this like so, like this. Good. So I'll make sure also that it's on 0 while this is on 120, right? Good. All right, so now the next thing I want to do now is to ensure that this shape here, so basically what I'm gonna do is I would select this right from this place to this place. So what's the essence of doing this? The essence of doing this is so I think that's not what I'm supposed to do. So what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to duplicate this. So now I'm going to change the color to something else so that I can actually see what I'm doing. Yeah, I think something like this will be fine. Then I will just so now at this point, now I'm gonna come right here, then drag towards the end, right? So once I do that, so once I do that, I can easily bring it right here. I deselect, so I'll just come right here. So you can see that I'm almost on the right path. So now it's aligned. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's also aligned with this. So I'll come right here, right? So I'll click this, come to this shape here, hold my shift and move like so that it's symmetric with this. So I do the same thing here too, come here, hold my shift and move like this. Yeah, so I think it solved that problem. Okay, so now the next thing is I want to have the image inside of here. So where is this shape? Okay, let it be right below. Then I would clip mask So I'll reduce the image so that it will fit into the shape the way I want it to be. So same thing applicable to this. And for this also, this is fine. Good. So now at this point I'm going to get, okay, good, I'm going to get this, and it should be right above every of it. Good. So now I have this like this. Okay, so I think there's something I'm missing out here, and which is, obviously I'm just trying to make things very fast, but then the way I did it on the design itself was that I intentionally made this smaller while this was bigger. So in the process of making it smaller, what I did was that, okay, I want to make sure that they are not on the same line. So but because of the tutorial and the length already is taking too much, so that's why I'm just going to do it somehow that might not necessarily look like the way I did it initially. But then what I did was that I ensured that this particular shape here, let's say I moved it up a little bit like this, so they were not on the same line, just to create this uniqueness. So this also, let's move it up a bit like this. Good. So something like this, yeah, so something like this is fine. Yes, something like this is fine. So yeah, that was how I came about the whole idea. Then for this, it's just a normal shape which you can just come right here, right click, right click, then you click on the ellipse tool, then you draw your ellipse tool, you hold your shift, you draw your ellipse tool, then you duplicate it. Once you duplicate, you can change the color of this so that you can see what you're doing. Maybe something like a little bit faint. Okay, so after that, then you can reduce. You hold your shift so that everything reduce equivalently. So if you're okay with it, then you can just hit your enter. Then you come right here, you select, you thumbnail. You can do it in different ways, either you thumbnail or you just select both of them. Let me deselect. You can select both of them using your control, then you click on your V, you align everything, you align them like this. You can do it that way too. So once you are done with that, then once you're done with that, you just reduce the opacity of this to like maybe like something like this. Yeah, I think maybe like 57 or 50, whatever. So that's how the transparency for this came about. Then I gave this at the top a drop shadow. So the drop shadow is what made it to reflect like this. So once I just click on this and I double click it now, yeah, this is the drop shadow I used. Then this is just the whole thing I did. The opacity of the drop shadow is just 24, and the distance is on 0, the spread on 25%, the size on 51%. Then that was all I did. That you can see this soft shadow around it here. So that was all about that. And just this is just a normal text, normal way to type a text. Okay, so then this is also another shape, another ellipse, smaller ellipse shape. Then I just type in the font inside of it. So that was how I did that. And yeah, basically that's all about the whole thing. But don't forget one thing. What I did was that I made sure that I followed with the color code of the whole thing. So if you check this, you see that this is a bit off, not totally off. You can leave it like this, but it's a bit off. So I just decided to make it a little bit of like a good structure. So I just went to the hue and saturation, and I just played around with the hue a little bit like this. I think this, I play with this like this. So now I'm gonna, in order not to affect the whole design, don't forget you have to clip mask so that it's only effective on this shape alone. So after I done the hue like this, then I went to the yellow. I dropped it to like -15 or 12 or thereabout. So yeah, we can see that the color now is now in alignment with this, which made more sense. Okay, so that's basically all I did. I don't want to go too deeper into adjusting the images and the likes, because it was part of what I did too, adjusting the images by, you know, giving it hue and saturation, or probably maybe vibrance and the likes. You can do that too. It's not necessary, but you can do that if you wish. So that's all about this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if there's something else you're missing out, you can just let me know. Just notify me, and I'll be dropping more tutorials. Like I said, I've promised I'll be dropping more tutorials back to back: graphic design, UI UX design, and data analysis of sorts. Okay, so I hope if this sounds like something you would really be interested in, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, so that subsequently when I post tutorials you get to know about it. And I hope you enjoy this. It's just a simple Jotter design, a simple back Jotter design. So maybe the next tutorial I'm gonna make on graphic design would be wedding invitation card, how to design wedding invitation card. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do next, and I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.